my goodness, look at this. After a 4.5-hour marathon episode of Electile Dysfunction 2024, we're back at it again. Third day in a row. Bonus podcasting all week long here on the AOA podcast. And if you notice, this one's a unique episode as well. We've got one topic only. How and why Donald Trump won the 2024 election. A lot of people waking up this morning flabbergasted. Miss Justice, I haven't picked my jaw up off the floor yet. Sad day for America. Well, if you're sad or you're happy, gather around, because I'm going to explain and recap for you what we just went through over the last 4 years, 2 years, 6 months, 3 months, and 24 hours. And at the end of it, you're going to be like, damn, Ant was right. Ant was right about all of this. This is one of those moments that I feel like I'm useful for. Very rarely do I feel useful. You know, you got to put in, you got to do some construction around the house. I'm useless. You know what I'm saying? You got to fix something, got to figure out a complicated math problem. Nothing. But people I know people. And what we're going to do over the next little bit, and I don't really vision this being a big episode, but if you're one of the people that is a Democrat and you're just like, what the hell happened? I got you. If you're one of the people that are celebrating this morning as a Republican, I got you too, because I'm going to lay out, I spent the last 24 hours, I'm on 90 minutes sleep, by the way. I spent the last 24 hours studying this and what took place here. And I think I have a pretty good hold on what happened. And let's start here with the election results, because when we left you last night after 4.5 hours, thank you, by the way, everybody who marshaled through. The live chat was so unbelievable throughout the whole entire Electile Dysfunction episode. It was great. It was great. It was great to be a part of it. But after we finished up last night, when we finished up, Donald Trump still had not taken the stage. All the electoral votes had not been counted. I think just before we left the airwaves, he had just been declared the winner of Pennsylvania. And so we look at the electoral map right now as we sit here, and surprise, surprise, it wasn't just a 277 win. Donald Trump, at his current electoral count here, not like it matters because all you have to do is get 270 to win. He's at 295 to Kamala's 226. He not only took Pennsylvania, he took Michigan and Wisconsin as well. Nevada and Arizona still need to report, but for the most part, this was a landslide victory. And all the polls said it's so close, right? It's so close. All these margins are so close. And, we predicted on this show it could turn into a landslide. We predicted it in the wrong direction, but we still predicted it. We had half of it right. And it was Donald Trump 295 to Kamala Harris's 226. For the first time in his career, he wins the popular vote with 72,527,000 votes to her 67,832,000. So he bests her in the popular vote by 5 million votes. 5 million votes. The Republicans rarely win a popular vote. Donald Trump ran away with this vote. And the result that we have for you here now, and if you're upset by this, I want you to stick with me the whole entire way. I'm going to say a lot of things that are going to be upsetting, but I want you to stick with me because I think you're going to feel comforted at the end of our podcast here. 5 million plus votes in the popular vote, landslide victory in the Electoral College, right? This was a mandate. Now, I'm not the first one to say this, but this was a mandate. The Republicans not only took back the White House, they gained an edge in the Senate, and the House has got to figure itself out. But, it looks like they're doing just fine there. And we've got a Republican court. So we are heading towards at least 4 years of pure Republican leadership. Midterms will come up. Obviously, we'll deal with that in 2 years, but I should say at least 2 years of the Republican leadership. But this was a mandate. This wasn't just, we'll give it a shot, or man, this is close. No, this was the United States of America clearly choosing one person and one party over the other with no room for interpretation or mistake. Make no bones about it. This was a flat out clear rejection of the Democratic Party. And we're going to go into exactly why. A lot of people like to scream and yell and throw words around like Nazis and racists and all that stuff. But I think what we saw here in this election was people putting their own personal needs above everything else. And in a way, that's what you want, right? I mean, I don't know about you guys, but I vote that way most of the time. Sometimes I don't. Sometimes I vote for greater good. Sometimes I vote for moral issues, but I'm not everybody. And I know you guys are different. I'm different. People are, who just watch and never comment, they're different. But this was people saying to themselves, the price of bacon, the price of a home, the price of gas is more important to me than some other rights that are out there and on the table in this election. People put secure border, the economy, crime as higher priorities above some of the moral issues that were on the table in this election. Women's, reproductive rights, so on and so forth. And that's okay. It doesn't probably feel good for the women. And women have a right to be anxious and angry and upset. People have the right to be anxious, angry, and upset. But what we saw here was people coming out and saying, that's an important issue too. There's a lot of important issues on the table, but these particular issues are the most important to me. I watched so much footage. I read so much today about. I just looked at exit polls after exit poll after exit poll, and everybody who voted for Donald Trump said the same thing. They all came back with the same thing. It was overwhelmingly a mandate on the economy. After that, it was the border. After that, it was crime. Right? We talk about people. We talk about the mommy and daddy effect. Right? When things are all great and we want health care and a nice warm hug, we go to mommy, we vote for the Democrats. When war is abound, we need toughness, we need security, we need strength, we go to the Republicans. This isn't, that's just the way it is. You look at the history of our country, and that is the way that we vote all the time. And this is one of those moments where between the economy and the border, we chose those issues above women's reproductive rights. And you can feel about that how you want, but more people in this country than others decided that these issues that they feel could be fixed in the short term were more important than some of the bigger long-term moral issues like women's reproductive rights. And that's it. That doesn't make a pack of racists. That doesn't make a pack of bigots. And it doesn't make a pack of Nazis. Are there racist, bigots, and Nazis in the Republican Party? Sure, absolutely. Are there bad people in the Democrat Party? Absolutely. There really are. But I think what we've learned here in this election, and I'm going to go through a bunch of things here, is number one, people don't like being talked down to, and the Democrats really did a lot of talking down to. A lot of it. And again, that call for fascist, not fascist, but fascist, racist, salad stealer, all the names that were thrown around. Nothing on the salad stealer, Jay Sams?
America, fuck yeah!
Are you happy? You excited about the results?
I am shocked.
You are.
I really thought she was winning. I said that yesterday. And everyone around me was like, yeah, I think she's going to win. I think she's going to win. And then when this podcast that I listen to and occasionally am on, the um, the host said once he wins Pennsylvania, that's it. That was it.
Yep.
Um, but go ahead.
As I was saying, people don't like being talked down to.
That's
And
right.
And J Sabs I'm being big on this issue, and the Democrats, and I was guilty of this too. Were in a high moral ground area and felt the need to dole out that, tongue lashing whenever we could. I shouldn't say whenever they could. And
no, you could put yourself with the liberals because I know you are. Go ahead.
Well, listen, I'm
just kidding.
I showed my kids when I went to go vote. It says no party affiliation on my little thing. I said, "You see that? That's where you're going to be. You're going to be an independent." I told them.
You said, "Don't listen to Aunt Janine. Your father is not a liberal pussy." And then your daughter said, "That's not true, Dad. Sorry, but you are liberal pussy too." In her phone.
Actually, I said, "Don't listen to Aunt Janine or Uncle Frankie." I said, "Stay away from those two nut jobs. You want to
exactly.
You want to be independent and think for yourself." But it's the truth. And I think what we saw from the Republican Party was this instance of this moment in time where they could fight back on this. They had the right person in that candidate chair that can do the dirty work of saying, hey, this is what we want. And if you don't like it, go to hell. And that's Donald Trump's MO.
Yep. I also, in the meantime, just want to say this. I've compiled a list of quotes from people on Facebook that are utterly ridiculous. And actually, my friend sent me some as well. My friend, who is a gay male. So, and who, the things that people are writing, I just can't even, I wish I had such passion for something that they did. Like this, I really do.
Yeah. It's hard to be passionate about politics. I really feel like you really only get one or two things in life to be passionate about, and there's so many other better things than politics to be passionate about.
Yeah,
you can't be passionate about 27 things. It just doesn't work that way.
No.
So Donald Trump came along at the right place at the right time. Now, people are going to be upset and be like, you're crazy. They're going to call me a racist and all that. But the truth of the matter is, and we have the early numbers, Donald Trump extended his influence in the Hispanic and African American communities.
Mm-hmm.
He did better with women in this election than he's ever done before.
Well, according to, and I will call her racist, on the View, she said, and she said today, because I had to record today, I had to watch today because I was working. She said, quote, uneducated white women.
Mm-hmm.
Which is like, why? Why say uneducated white women? That
well, they do that. They break that down to college educated or not. They do that a lot.
Well, that's ridiculous. It's dumb.
Well, be that as it may, they break it down into that demographic because that's how they try and reach people.
I guess.
So in looking at Kamala's numbers and the Democrat numbers, in 2020, they got 65% of the Latino vote. Yesterday, they got 53% of the Latino vote.
Mm-hmm. So it definitely went down.
In 2020, they got 60% of young voters. Yesterday, 55%.
Hmm.
In 2020, they got 57% of women voters. Yesterday, 54%.
Mm-hmm.
At every scale that you can imagine, Kamala and the Democrats fell short by every measurable stick that you have. Joe Biden won the White House in 2020 with 81 million votes. Kamala Harris only mustered up 67 million votes. Now, Donald Trump didn't even reach his 2020 numbers. So voting overall was down, which goes to show you the impact that the pandemic had on this. People were just voting to get out of the pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
That's all it was. Like, they didn't have people felt powerless throughout that whole entire thing. And then the election comes along and here's something I can do to change the momentum. And they all went out and they did, and they chose Joe Biden, plain and simple. That was 81 million votes, though. She's 14 million votes shy of that.
That's a lot.
That is an awful lot.
And
women, she's a woman. The women just did not come out to support her whatsoever.
I have to say, I'm glad for that, because I don't think you should vote for a woman just because she's a woman. If you're a woman.
Well, I got news for you. The first time an Italian guy from New York who's an Islander fan runs for president, I don't give a shit if he is a crazy bastard. He's got my fucking vote. I'll tell you that right now.
Well,
I'm never going to see a little pudgy but still kind of adorable Italian guy hit that White House rooting for the Islanders. It's never going to happen in my lifetime.
Are you going to tell us who you voted for?
No.
Even though I already know.
I'm never going to tell anybody who I voted for. I wouldn't tell my kids. So there's that. So, and what I found on, because again, I like to study the media, J-Sabs. I like to watch all the people. I flip around. And the amount of panelists that were discussing this late last night, and the amount of people, and they're like trying to still push this racism narrative, and the pushback that they got from the Republicans when they could see the numbers. Like, how are we calling Latinos racist against themselves? Are we calling African-American people racist against themselves? Are we calling women sexist against themselves?
Yeah, it doesn't make sense. That just doesn't make sense then.
It doesn't. So here's where it starts to get interesting. Are you familiar with Scott Galloway?
No, absolutely not.
Very interesting.
Is he Irish?
I think so. Very interesting guy. And he brought up this point, and it's starting us down this path of explanation on what exactly happened here. So Scott Galloway is one of these, marketing guys, business guys. I think he's a professor at NYU, very smart, intelligent human being. He studies men. He studies young men in particular. And he's done a lot of work on this, and it's really pretty interesting. You'll hear all these things about young men are depressed, young men are this, young men are that. And it's the truth. There's a stat that he likes to throw around where it's like in the 90s, by the time you were 30 or something, most 60% of young men had kids. That number has now fallen to 30%, And, he says, and I know this is going to be hard for a lot of Democrats to hear, but he says that you do have to keep young men. It doesn't matter race or religion or whatever, but you have to keep young men engaged in society and happy to an extent, because you have to carry on society. If young men are lost in video games, or they constantly feel rejected all the time, or they don't have a place in society, they withdraw, and that overall is not a good thing, right? You can't have men withdrawing from society. You can't have women en masse withdrawing from society. Doesn't work that way. You need people engaged. You need people working. You need people buying homes, starting families, building a life together, all that stuff. Yeah, look, Paul. Oh, even Paul. See, Paul only agrees with me once a quarter. Once every 3 months, Paul gives me credit for something. And he says Scott Galloway is a very accomplished person and very smart. Yeah, because he studies these things. He's an interesting guy. And he brought up a point which I'm going to share with you guys, that if you go to the Democrats' website, which is democrats.org, and you click on who we are, which everybody can see on the screen right here. You click on who we are, there's a section that's called who we serve. And if you click on that, it brings you up to this page that discusses who they serve. And it lists a whole bunch of people, and it lists African Americans, Americans with disabilities, Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders, Democrats abroad, ethnic Americans, Latinos, the faith community, LGBTQ+, Native Americans, rural Americans, seniors and retirees, small business community, union members and families, veterans and military families, women, young people, and students. What's missing from that list, Janine?
Women.
Nope, women's right there. It's the second to last.
Men.
You got me on that. Men. Young men in particular, right? I mean, it says young people and students in there. It says veterans and military families. So men can find themselves in some of these categories. But for the most part, you're talking about a organization and a political party that has completely forgotten, abandoned, and left alone young men, and in particular, young white men, right? Which is a massive amount of people in our society, right? Not in the minority whatsoever, in the majority. And it's why everybody feels the need to throw out white privilege this, and, you know, you're a racist that, and all this stuff. The Democratic Party has forgotten about a huge portion of their potential supporters. And that hasn't been more evident than what we saw play itself out in this election. Because if you look at Donald Trump's speech last night, and I want to share this with you too, he had a very uniting message. He spoke for a little while. He was not the bombastic asshole he's known to be, right? He was, dare I say, eloquent. He was succinct. It wasn't a huge speech. It was like on the shorter side. And he did something that I've not seen him do ever. I didn't see him do it in his inaugural speech 8 years ago, I should say now. God, that is scary, isn't it? He talked about unity. I mean, even in the I almost got killed, assassinated, and I'm going to start talking about unity Trump mode that we had there for 4 days, we still didn't get that speech. But take a listen to what he said here.
I'm asking every citizen all across our land to join me in this noble and righteous endeavor. That's what it is. It's time to put the divisions of the past 4 years behind us. It's time to unite. And we're going to try. We have to try. And it's going to happen. Success will bring us together. I've seen that.
I think it's important, too, that he says success will bring us together. I believe that he believes that in his heart of hearts. He's a business person. This is the only way he knows how to measure anything is by success. So he speaks about unity. He discusses success. He says all these things, which I've never really seen him say before. But it brings me back to my point. In this speech last night that Donald Trump made, he gave up the microphone several times, which he does not often do. He does at the rallies sometimes. But he let J.D. Vance speak. He let his campaign managers speak. And he brings up Dana White. And Dana White gets on the microphone, and Dana White thanks the Nelk boys, Theo Vaughn, Bussin' with the Boys, Joe Rogan, and that whole crew, and he thanks them. And I'm watching, and a light bulb goes off in my head. And now all these points that I've made for you, the mandate, the border and the economy, people not liking being talked down to, the Hispanics and the African American and the women showing up for Donald Trump, Galloway pointing out that the Democrats have completely lost young white men, and I'm listening to Dana White, and I'm going, that's what he did. He went out there and he mobilized the young white male vote. And that does not make him a racist, does not make him a Nazi. He saw a need and he aimed to fulfill it. And what the Democrats can't understand, because they're so busy looking out for the minorities and the overlooked, which is noble and wonderful. Somebody has to do that. They've neglected a huge portion of, again, their potential supporters. And I
Right.
look at this and I go, it's interesting because Joe Rogan, who I was surprised had Donald Trump on, I thought he did good work by trying to get Kamala on. Now we can see that clearly it was a mistake. She didn't make an effort to get there because she probably should have. It would have benefited her to go on the Joe Rogan podcast,
Oh, yeah.
right? Big time. It would have benefited her. I see this and I go, Joe Rogan really came far. He went from a Bernie supporter not 8 years ago to now a full-on endorsement of Donald Trump the day before the election. And I think to myself, how did that happen? And as I think to myself, I'm thinking about the election, the electile dysfunction special. And I think it was Robin. Robin, you correct me if I'm wrong about this, but Robin says something. And again, I have one of those moments that, boom, it all clicks together. The problem for Joe Rogan, and again, I think Robin said this too, was everybody was excited for Bernie Sanders. And the Democrats pushed him aside for Hillary Clinton.
Yep. He would have won, I think.
He might have won. And that
Maybe.
was the beginning of the split. That was the start of the, what do they call that? Chasm, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
That was the first crack in the foundation of people in general, but for the most part, young people, and then take it further, young white men, feeling disenfranchised by the Democratic Party. Robin's right. They also pushed Bernie aside a second time for Joe Biden, right? When he decided to run, Bernie was kind of circling that thing. And I think to myself too, because I go, I love Bernie too. I don't know if I would have voted for him, but I loved him. And I think to myself, of all the reasons why I love Bernie, I'm tired of the status quo. What do normal average politicians do for me? Right? It's the same politician all the time. Everybody's sick of it. And that's why Donald Trump won and beat Hillary the first time. And that appeal of Bernie Sanders, and I start to think about it and I go, all these people who were talked down to, I was sitting here talking about all the things wrong with Donald Trump and why people couldn't see that and how they were looking past it. And I'm looking past the disenfranchisement of this group of people that saw some hope in Bernie Sanders and saw the Democratic Party crush it. Mm. And then they gave you 4 years of Donald Trump. And then they push Bernie aside. And then they give you Joe Biden. And what does Joe Biden do? Joe Biden comes in and says, give me your vote. I'm a transitional president. I'm only going to be here for 4 years. And for 4 years, 3.5, he ignores Kamala Harris, doesn't put her in a position of prominence whatsoever, and then announces to everybody, well, of course I'm going to run again. And it's like, that's not the deal that you made with us. You said you were a transitional candidate, and now you're going back on your word. Problem number 2. Problem number 3 then comes with this coup, which again, I stand by this. The Democratic National Convention can put up anybody they want. There doesn't need to be a vote. What I overlooked was how upset people were at that.
Oh, yeah. People were pissed, right?
Very. And Joe Rogan in particular. And I push back on Joe Rogan. But, the numbers don't lie. The election is a real life breathing thing. People are telling you how they feel. And last night being a mandate was those people telling us how they feel. That was another, maybe and possibly, the straw that breaks the camel's back. Like, I'm not going to go back to this machine, the machine that pushed Bernie aside, the machine that told me you were only staying for 4 and then you attempted to go for 8, the machine now that's trying to sell me on Kamala Harris, who was not part of Biden's, administration as far as publicly goes, right? And her
Wait, question. Who said they were only going to be there for 4 years?
Joe Biden.
Okay.
Yeah, Joe Biden was old as fuck. In 2020, he said, vote for me. I'm only going to be there for 4 years. I'm only here to stop Donald Trump, and then I'm going to get out. That's what he promised everybody. And then when it came time, he reneged on it.
Yeah.
And then
what time you go to sleep last night?
Oh, I didn't. I got 90 minutes of sleep. I told you. I have not slept.
Same here. Good.
But I have coffee. I don't need sleep. Sleep is for pussies.
America. Fuck yeah.
Coffee is for the tough.
Fuck yeah.
So that's what happened. That's what you have. It's not just Joe Rogan being a dick. It's Joe Rogan being fed up. That was it. And fed up to the point where they will flip to the other side. And how could you be mad at people that vote that way when on the Democratic side, all you had was people that were fed up with Donald Trump flipping over to Kamala's side, i.e. Liz Cheney, former chiefs of staff, all these people that were it was happening all over the place. It just so happens that more people were fed up with the Democrats than the Republicans and Donald Trump. And that's why he won. It was a big deal. It started with Bernie and Kamala being put in that position. She could not overcome that coup label. And that was it. People decided, I'm going to put myself over long-term moral issues. And that's how you get a runaway win from Donald Trump. And the media, especially the left-wing media, and me, to a degree, I have to admit this, overlooked the importance of some of those things, and the amount of polls and bullshit that was out there was plentiful. From this Iowa poll talking about her being up 8 points or 13 points, whatever it was, all of a sudden in Iowa, which was just fucking craziness. I talked about this theory being quite intriguing of conservative women voting for her behind the back of their husband. Didn't happen. That was floated out there a whole bunch, so much so that she made a campaign ad about it. That didn't happen. You had all these pundits and predictors and the keys to the White House, and it's going to happen here and there, and I just know it, and all these TikTok and Twitter experts that knew and put the things together and let the dog pick the fucking bowl that pick, all this stupid shit. And it was all ignoring the signs that were right there in front of us. I talked about the fact that the Trump campaign farmed out their ground game to Charlie Kirk. Is that a good move? Turns out it was, because Charlie Kirk.
I know who he is.
Yeah, Charlie Kirk.
First person.
Charlie Kirk knows how to talk to young white men. The Full Send podcast, Theo Vaughn's podcast, Joe Rogan, the UFC. How many times did Donald Trump show up at a UFC event? Logan Paul, all these people. They are tired of being lied to and being played by the machine. These are people that could have been voting for God knows who on the Democrat side after an 8-year term for Bernie if the Democrats just let the process play out. But they stifled Bernie Sanders. They showed you it wasn't fair back then. Then we went for it because we had to get out of the pandemic. Okay, we'll vote for you, Joe, if you're only going to be there for 4 years. And guess what? That was bullshit too, right? And then all of a sudden they give us Kamala, who couldn't win in the primary when she was running against Joe. She wasn't there at all throughout the entire time of the administration, taking in any sort of victories or wins. The most we had ever seen Kamala was when they decided to kick Joe off the ticket. We never saw her a lot before then. She was one of the most unpopular vice presidents ever. And people decided that they didn't want to deal with that any longer. And when you combine that with the fact that they're being talked down to, with the fact that at the end of the day, we're all going to vote for what's best for us. Most people decided, I need to pay less for bacon. My sister, my aunt, my niece, my daughter, whatever the case may be, may have to suffer with her personal health care issues for the next 4 or 8 years. But I need to pay less for gasoline right now. And that's how most of those people voted. You know, and let's be honest, when you're young, this is not just a white man issue, but when you're young, you're pretty selfish.
Whoa, whoa, whoa.
I mean, come on.
Like, I'm not young anymore. Go ahead.
Yeah. 16, 17 to 26, 27, kind of a all about me time.
42, yeah.
But it is, though. I need to figure myself out. I need to know what I like. You're prioritizing. I need to get my career off the ground. I need to meet somebody. You're putting yourself first. Bless you.
Oh, that was
I know who it was. I know who it was.
You think he's funny? He's not funny. Go ahead.
Oh, I've been getting under.
I have a big bone to pick
I've
with
been
you
getting
about
under Janine's skin for the last 24 hours. It's been the greatest thrill of my life.
That you think he's funny.
Come on. I mean, listen, your husband, Janine's husband, I don't even know if I can share this, but we were talking in our little group chat. I don't even know if I could share that. I can't remember, but I'm not going to share these things because it's some of this might be his personal stuff. Let's just put it this way. There was so much chatter, and then Janine's husband just comes in like fucking Bob Ross putting a little happy bush, next to the lake. Just comes in and lays these little lines in, and they're so funny. I just can't get over it. I'll tell you what your husband has, which nobody else does.
You could say what he said. It was not even anything.
No, I don't want it. He has the timing of a Swiss watch. I mean, the guy, he just knows how to let me just leave this right here for everybody. It's like a little underwater torpedo. He just lets it the little hole opens out of the side of the thing and goes, shh, and then all of a sudden,
I'm going to say it.
Well, he said, one of our friends was very excited about the win, and he was going. By the way, a friend who I don't know about you, but hasn't spoken to me in 4 years, and then finally showed up in the chat once Donald Trump won. So that was a bright spot for me. I feel like, oh, maybe I'll get my friend back now that his president is back in the office. But your husband chimed in with so there was a little back and forth, and then your husband just comes out of nowhere with finally a president that can unite us, which was hysterical because this guy is everything but unite. Again, when he said the uniting thing in the speech last night, I nearly shit myself because I'm like, who is this? We were supposed to get this guy after the shooting, and we never did, and now all of a sudden here it is. And then a couple of lines later, he goes, Mexican president just wrote a check for the wall. Which is a really funny line to say, You had some funny lines, too. It's just, I wish you had the timing of your husband, because he's just great.
No, I don't, we've talked about this before, and I know, I don't think he's funny, really. I think there's a lot... People say, oh, he's funny, right? Because he comes out with very dry remarks and comments, and I'm like, okay, I think I'm 10 times funnier. Sorry.
Yeah. No, you're hysterical. It's just you're slightly behind him. That's all I'm saying.
I'm a little bit more in your face where he's just like, yeah. So.
Yeah. And then this was the most that chat has been going since forever. And then one of the last things he said was Trump has made this chat great again, which I was again cackling out loud to myself. I was in this room. I was by myself in this room reading, and then I read that and I was just hysterical laughing.
Oh God.
Hysterical laughing.
Oh.
But listen, Trump is an imperfect person.
We all are.
Yeah, and my feelings on him have not changed. I'm at the point where he won. He's the guy. I'm going to root for him, just like I rooted for him the first time around, just like I rooted for Joe Biden during his time.
Liberal pussy. Go ahead.
No, I
No,
feel
just
like
kidding.
you get behind the person, especially in those first 100 days. You're really root for them, because after that they just get caught up in the machine and it's really hard to govern. But you got to root. It doesn't make sense to root against these people. They're on our team,
They literally are supposed to be leading us, though.
Yeah. But I don't like him. I'll never forgive him for not conceding the election and for not showing up at the inauguration. I will never, ever forget that and let that go.
Yeah, that
ever.
bothered you, huh?
Still bothers me to this day.
Do you compare it to, like, say, I don't know, someone passed away in your family and then your in-laws don't go to the wake?
It's worse than that.
I'd say it's comparable. Go ahead.
It's part of the bedrock of our nation. You lose, you shake hands, you say good job, and then you go on your merry way. And the fact that he didn't do that,
I know you didn't like that.
Didn't like it. It's big character flaw. Big.
One thing we have not talked about, I don't think anyway, and I just checked, you were on this for 4.5 hours last night.
Yeah.
Let me ask you, before I get ahead of myself, did you know who won before you signed off, or no?
Yeah, if you watch the last 3 minutes, I was being here's what happened. I was being very cautious because in Pennsylvania he had a 200,000 vote lead, but we were trying to figure out how many votes were left in Philadelphia County to count. Because it was possible that once they counted everything, and it could have been tied, or it could have been really close for a recount. So I didn't really know. But he was also leading in Wisconsin. It was the same thing in Wisconsin. They were waiting for the Milwaukee County. So it was kind of tough. And then when it got to the point where it looked like that was it, I said, well, this is it. It looks like he's going to go on unless something drastic happens. And that's how we left off with faith. I think I said, congratulations to Donald Trump. It looks like he's going to win this thing, barring something dramatic. And that's how we left.
And then you saw on TV that he won Pennsylvania, and you said, oh, he won or no? Take me through your night.
Yeah.
Take me through your night.
I'll take you through, and you can see this on our Twitter and our Facebook and our Instagram, everything, because I kept going, because here's the problem. I didn't know how long it was going to take, and they started talking about 3 and 4 in the morning with the counting, and I'm like, I can't, and I should have stayed on because I wound up staying up till fucking 5:30 anyway.
Oh my God.
But when he won, okay, so here's what happened. So he went, as soon as we got off the air, they finally call it for Pennsylvania. But here's how it happened. So we're on, right? And I have the feed coming in to the studio here from his election headquarters. And I start to hear a lot of cheering and a lot of singing. So I go over to the feed to take a look at it. And Fox News has declared that he won Philadelphia. So I go over to Google. Google doesn't have it yet. I go to the AP. The AP doesn't have it yet. I go to CNN. CNN doesn't have it yet. So I'm like, okay. Clearly, they think this $200 vote difference is good enough. Let's see how long it takes all the other ones. So Fox was the first one, and I tweeted this last night. Fox was the first one to call him the president. They were the first ones to call the election because she could not win without Pennsylvania. I mean, she could have, but she would have had to literally win Wisconsin, Nevada, Arizona. It would have been a long shot. So Fox made the call first, which I didn't hate because it's like they've determined that lead is insurmountable. Right. And as it turns out, it was. So I went to Google just a little while after that, a few minutes after that, maybe 5 or 7 minutes, and then Google had it, which is like fine. Like you can't get mad at people because here's what happens. There in every one of these networks and news entities, there's a room and people are sitting there reading exit polls, watching vote patterns. They're studying they got their algorithm going, and they're trying to call the election. And those people are separate from the news people and the opinion people, right? Those are just strictly number people. So if Fox number people got there first, I don't begrudge anybody who gets there a few minutes later. But then as I kept watching CNN, It was fucking embarrassing.
Mm.
They would
Yeah,
not
I know.
call it. They would not call Pennsylvania, even though they all kind of knew. And then who's the guy I hate over there? I hate a lot of them, but Jake Tapper. Jake Tapper's like, as far as I know, nobody used, and everybody on the panel was like, no, Fox News called. Like they all knew in studio. I don't know if he really missed it or if he was just trying to toe the company line and they were trying to hang in there for as long as possible. But I'm talking about 20 minutes to a half hour. They went to Trump's speech before they officially called the election on their network. That's fucking embarrassing.
Right. That's why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't you?
Oh, it's embarrassing. And then I saw MSNBC. What's that girl's name? I forget her name. But she was stumbling through saying that Pennsylvania goes to Donald Trump, and she couldn't get through it. It's like, you're a professional. Just call it. Just fucking call it. Maddow, right. Thank you, Rachel Maddow. She's
so annoying.
There was no way for her to come back. Once Pennsylvania was done, it was over.
Right.
And it took them all a long time. But I will say, like, again, I went back today because this is just what I do. Some of the Republicans were just as annoying. Like I actually put on 4 minutes of Alex Jones, and you got to see him. Like I guess he had his own little desk person, right? It was probably making no money. And he's sitting there and he's reading all these things. And this guy is going on and on about how they're stealing the election. It's all fraud. It's bullshit. It's not going to happen. How are they going to take away Pennsylvania from him? And then he was like, oh, they called Pennsylvania. Like asshole. Like, you don't know what you're talking. Like, there's so many people on Twitter that were like, look, they're bringing in ballots. They're stealing ballots, all this stuff. Like, they take the ballots from where people vote and they take it back to an office and they count it. It's got to get there in a car or a box truck or a van or something. I mean, you're talking about a lot of boxes of ballots. They were just moving ballots around. And these people are like, look, there's a police escort because Trump has created this world of everything is stolen. So there's people with cameras outside of the election office going like, look, here comes all the Kamala votes. Here comes all the Kamala votes. And it's like, asshole, he already won the election. It's over.
So so after you found out that he did actually win Pennsylvania, you just decided to stay up.
Well,
look around.
I wanted to see his speech. I wanted to see what he would say. And I'm being totally honest. We saw a Donald Trump last night that we have not seen in a really long time. It was very reminiscent of the first time he won. He was stunned.
Yeah.
That first time he won, he was, go back and watch it. He cannot believe it. And he believed it a little bit more this time around, but he was still pretty surprised. And I think the shock this time around is not so much that he won, because I think he believed he could have. I think he was shocked at how much he won by.
Yeah. Right.
I mean, Janine,
I was shocked.
Listen, I made the biggest thing out of why the fuck is he doing a thing in Madison Square Garden, right? You go look at the numbers in New York, in the Bronx. Wait, I have it here. Don't push me around, Janine. I'm going to get to it. Just hold your horses. In the Bronx, Joe Biden in 2020 won the Bronx 83% to Trump's 15%.
Whoa, shit.
Okay. Kamala won the Bronx 72% to Trump's 27%.
Yeah, he went up in New York.
The fucking Bronx. Minorities, Democrats, like you name it. He gained 12 percentage points in the Bronx.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? Like when I tell people, and I know people are upset, when I tell people this was a mandate, you're talking about an electorate, a group of people that were sick of this shit in 2016. And now they've sat through Bernie getting pushed aside, Biden promising 4 years and reneging on it. Then they serve up Kamala, who nobody ever wanted. And now they've had enough.
Yep, I know. Well, that's the whole thing. I think people just have had enough, and um, what I'm curious about, do they give specifics on each county? Like, I know Nassau County and Suffolk County, but do they go into it deeper and say, all right, in this town they voted this, in this town they voted this? Or they don't do that.
Yeah, no, they do.
They do. I was trying to find it and I couldn't find it.
It'll take a couple days for all of that.
Oh, my other question is, two states have not gotten all their votes in, correct? It's
Yeah,
what is it?
Nevada and Arizona, I think, are still.
Right.
Yeah.
And did they do that last time as well?
Arizona. I'm trying to think if Arizona dragged their feet last time. I'm not really sure. It has
And
happened before, though.
And what's the reasoning?
Counting. So here's the problem with Arizona. There was so much stuff on the ballot.
Oh.
It was not just all the races. It's not just president and everything else. They had a lot of races, and then they had a lot of referendums.
Oh, okay.
So voting takes longer, then counting takes longer. Like if you just have the elections, like in New York, we had 2 referendums, right? Done.
Yeah,
Easy.
I hope you voted no for Prop 1.
I can't even remember what I voted for.
I know, because you were so excited. You were so hard for Harris. That's a hashtag, by the way.
Hard for Harris. Where was that 2 days ago? That might have put her over the top.
See, look, you know what you're talking to right now? You're talking to the next presidential candidate, 2028. Okay.
You and Bird's trying to get on your ticket. She's trying to be VP, I think. She was trying to.
We'll rule the world. That doesn't sound too good, right? I mean, yeah. I think the world needs a change in 28. Someone who knows nothing about politics at all.
I mean, listen, it's wide
open. It's going to run
open.
the country.
Yeah, it's wide open. I mean, I talked about this last night. It's Gavin Newsom's turn. It's his time. And, after I went through all this today and studied all this and understood what really happened here, because that's what happened. I don't know if a Gavin Newsom, I don't know. I don't know now. I don't know what it's going to be, because this is, listen, barring Trump changing some rules, which he's got the majority, in Congress. So but I think it's pretty difficult to do that. And I don't even think he wants to do it. I think this is validation enough for him.
Well, he won the popular vote. So
he got it all. Part of me, and why I wanted to watch the speech last night, was just to kind of see his demeanor and see what he would say and see if he would throw the unity thing out there. And he did.
Yeah, he did.
But he talked about giving Kennedy the health thing and giving Elon this thing and that thing. And he farmed out the ground game to Charlie Kirk. I don't think he plans on doing much this time around. I think he just wanted to win it.
Yeah. I have a really big question though for you.
Yeah.
Do you think that Frank and wife are going to stay in Europe and never come back?
I mean, I hope for their sake they live a happy. We should all. My dream is to go to Europe and go, fuck it, I'm just going to stay here. So yeah, I'm hoping that they do. Part of me is hoping that they do.
I know. You've never been, right?
Never been, no.
Oh my God, no, you have to go. But
I know.
What's one thing we have not talked about, and that Frank's reaction. I mean, is he still alive? Because I'm pretty sure he's overboard.
No, he's alive. He's alive.
Are we sure?
Yeah. I checked in. I checked in with him before. I checked in.
You did not.
Listen, I had to check in on a lot of people. Okay, my mother, my aunt, Frank. I had to check in on a lot of people and make sure that they were okay today.
Okay, can I give you a quote from someone?
Yeah, give me the quote.
And I'm sorry, but
Wait, is this a J.D. Vance quote? Is it the "Look out, White House couches, here I come"? Because I read that already. I don't know if that's true.
No.
Oh, okay. All right. Then go ahead.
So somebody shared this on Facebook. What a privilege it must be to be so unafraid. And then someone else underneath it wrote, Gen Z woman, when deciding who to date, please be ruthless. Come on, people. Come on, people.
I'm confused. What happened? Say this again.
Exactly. Oh, I'm not going to even say it because it's so ridiculous. It's so unbelievable.
I didn't understand it.
Oh, wait. Okay, how about this one?
Okay.
This is someone wrote this on Facebook. Please get Plan B in your medicine kit for you, your kids, male and female, and neighbors, before it costs $1,000 on the black market. Someone else replied underneath it, thank you for the reminder. I've kept 2 in my closet since June 2022. Need to check the expiration date and replace if needed. And these are like people I know. These are people I know. So you're not the only lib.
No, I know. Listen, that doesn't change the fact that it's sad what the Supreme Court did.
I will say it. I don't, and I've said this before. I don't think it's the government's decision to tell us, like, what we can and can't do, with our bodies, and I truly believe that all around, including the shots too, the stupid COVID shots. So yeah, I don't think you can say, and I'll get backlash for this. I don't think you could say you need to take these shots or you're not allowed on a plane, and you need to take these shots or you're a piece of shit. But also, yeah, you can't have it. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't.
Yeah. Well, listen, I know what you're saying, and I agree with you. I also think, and you might be shocked to hear that, but I do agree with you. I think there's extenuating circumstances with a public health crisis.
But the fact is, they pushed on us that if you got the shot, you would not get COVID. And that turned out miserably because people who got the shot had COVID worse than the people who didn't. Point in case, you and your wife and me. And every case and every body is so different that they could have not possibly said, you will not get this.
Yeah.
Because they did not know how it would react in just because everyone's makeup is so different.
Yeah, of course. But see, where you and I differ on this is...
Ooh, mansplain me, baby.
Not a mansplain.
God, just kidding.
But where you and I differ on this is, they were in the thick of it. And,
yeah, they were desperate.
And bad decisions were made, but I feel that the best decisions were made from their seats at the time they made them. And did they turn out to be not true and not great decisions in hindsight? Yeah. Did some people maybe know and stretch the truth out anyway? They did. Were their intentions, did they have best intentions to keep as many people safe as possible? I believe that they were. And listen, we were staring down the barrel, and you know this, and I was vaccinated, well, the kids got to get vaccinated. And I was like, that I don't know about, because you start to read a lot of the things that were getting out there, and whether it was misinformation or not, or the enlarged heart stuff, I never crossed that threshold. And my wife and I talked about it all the time, and she was worried, and I was worried, and school, this and that. And I just told her, I was like, we'll cross that bridge when we get there. And hopefully we never have to get there. And thankfully we never had to, but I don't know if I would have went along with that.
Right.
Fuck up my shit. I'm fine. I was, I'm headed for I'm fucking half dead inside anyway. Doesn't make a difference. Right, Janine? Right. It's like we've lived. It's fine. But you don't want to fuck up your kid's future. That's a different story.
Right. I mean, I never felt like, hey, if I got COVID, I would have a concern that I would die or that I would be horribly sick because I am healthy.
But in the beginning?
No, really, because, then they were saying like the kids who were getting it were not getting any symptoms of it, or that they didn't even know.
Well, that emerged after a while. But in the beginning, when they were stacking up bodies outside of New York, those hospitals, it was a little...
Yeah, questionable. That's still questionable.
Go away.
Okay.
Oh,
That
go.
is.
And
I just don't think nobody should, I don't think anybody should tell me what I should do. Whether you're male or female. That's it.
I understand. Yeah, I understand that.
And I'm sorry. A lot of people say, people who are pro-choice say, and I'm pro-choice. Oh God, this is hard to explain. People who say I should have no say in what anybody else does with their body, I agree with. But then there are people who say I shouldn't have a say, but I also think that it's horrible to have an abortion.
Everybody feels that way, don't you think?
No, I don't think everybody does. I think there are some people who believe that.
You think people are throwing abortion parties?
Not abortion parties, but people use it as birth control. And I don't think that a lot of people do that, but there are some people who do believe that. And the people who say like, oh, if people use it as birth control, then that's fine because I don't care. It's not my body.
Yeah. Well, listen.
But they'll say, I would never do that for myself. So it does get tricky because people judge no matter what. They do.
Oh, of course.
They do. But I've said this before when I worked in an OB's office. The people who wanted abortions were those who were married and older. That was the most amount of people who wanted them. It was not young girls.
That's interesting.
It was. So, and they didn't want them for medical reasons. They didn't want it because they already had kids and they didn't want another one.
And it wasn't their husbands. It was the UPS guys, right?
Right. Oops. I mean, yeah.
Paul said something, and we've passed the point of that comment, but I just want to say, during the pandemic, so much changed with the vaccine information, and then people got to a point where they were like, well, you said this, and now you're saying this other thing, and it got people lost patience with it.
Yep.
So it got to the point where they felt they were being lied to, even though as we were learning more, the facts were changing. It wasn't viewed that way. They were more viewed like, oh, you lied to me, which, again, I don't know how much of that is true or not, or how people feel about that. But again, I still think that the best intentions were there from our health officials. And so I didn't begrudge them, not as much as Jay Saps did, but we disagree on that, and that's fine.
Yeah, it's fine because I don't trust pharmaceutical companies at all.
Yeah,
at all. So, and this is from someone who has all her vaccines and the kids have all their vaccines. I just mean in general now, pharmaceutical companies, not just vaccines,
right?
Any other type of meds, and I take medicine, but pharmaceutical and health insurance companies, something's got to change. I'm going to share that my daughter broke her wrist in August, just got the bill for it. The doctor...
You didn't tell me that. I didn't know that.
You didn't know that?
No.
Yeah, she broke it on the monkey bars, but it wasn't like a complete break. It was just... it was...
was it Teresa or Nadine or...
So you don't know which kid it is.
Fabrizia? Right.
So,
Ariana.
Fabrizia.
You named your kids, and it's funny that you say you don't trust pharmaceutical companies because you named your kids after drugs.
Right. Exactly. I'll share that. I got the bill the other day from the orthopedic. We did not see him on the first day. We had to make an appointment. So he didn't even take any x-rays. I had gotten it from the urgent care. I walked in there. I showed him the x-ray picture on my phone. Quick, he maybe looked at it for maybe 10 seconds and said, okay, we'll get a brace. Put the brace on and left. He was in and out maybe 5 or 6 minutes. How much do you think I owe?
$74,000. No, realistically, for that, was he a specialist or was he a regular doctor?
He was an orthopedic, so technically he's a specialist.
Specialist visit. I'm gonna say $6 to $8 grand.
$6 to $8 grand. Where do you work?
I don't know.
That's okay. You clearly don't know about health insurance.
Okay. I have no idea. For $500. I don't know what.
So my health insurance company was billed $1,600.
Oh, okay.
And I'm responsible for $1,200 and something.
Oh, Jesus.
Guess who's not paying it?
No, you can't. You can't pay those things.
Not paying it.
But that's why they charge you so much, because they know you're going to just fight and argue it down, and you know, they got to cover the cost for all that stuff. Oh, insurance companies are the worst.
Oh, please. I know, exactly. Well, that's one thing we have to fix.
By the way, thank God for the AOA holes, because Lindarella with 12,000, Paul says 30. Miss Just, you made me feel like an asshole here for fucking my guess. And everybody,
clearly our viewers don't know about this.
Yeah, ignore Bird, who was very close to her guess. That's an anomaly. Let's not count that one. But everybody else was with me, so thank you.
Yep, office visit was that much. That's it.
That's wasn't brutal.
It wasn't hospital. It was an office visit. So yeah, not paying it. Sorry.
You should just write the insurance company. Be like, I don't know who you're charging here, but my daughter Fabrizia never saw this guy. I don't know who this Aurelia person is.
Right.
You know.
Fabrizia Aurelia. That should have been her whole name.
Fabrizia Aurelia. Yeah. Where did you get Aurelia from? Was it one of those drug commercials? Take Aurelia if you have symptoms lasting for longer than 4 days.
If your groin itches.
It's just old people just walking fast in a park together.
There you go. And farting all around the park.
Oh, shit. Oh, here, this, you asked me before if I heard from Frank. I did. This is what I got from Frank earlier.
Hey, Aaron, come check out what Megan. Look at his face. Oh, I got a screenshot. I got to send this to our friend.
Can't take credit for this. This was a Robin original. Robin loves using that Frank face, and it really is hilarious. And I think one time Frank was kind of like, I thought Robin liked me. And I'm like, no, he does. It's just you made a hilarious face that he happened to capture, and now he's just putting it everywhere, and it just works and is funny everywhere. Like, it's just hysterical. By the way, that's the face he makes every time you talk, just so you know.
I swear to God, I was just going to say that. That's Frank's face every time I talk. So.
I'm just teasing you because you're so super sensitive about him and how he
talks down to me like the Democrats.
I'm telling you, he genuinely loves you, and you don't believe it. And no matter what any of us say, you will never believe it.
No, I don't think so.
I think that's so funny that you can't accept it.
No.
You can't accept his admiration. You just can't.
No. Nope. He hates me.
No, he doesn't. He hates Trump.
Eat worms.
He hates Trump. By the way, and I want to say, and I believe everything that I said at the start of this episode about why we got to where we got to, and I understand. That's why I hope Democrats take from this the fact that you gotta look in the mirror, because you guys fucked this up starting back in 2016. There's plenty to begrudge Donald Trump about, and I have not forgotten all those things, but people view him as an agent of change, and I honestly, when I was thinking about it today, I kind of felt like I remember being invigorated by Bernie in the beginning too. I remember being worried about his foreign policy and whether or not he would make a good president, but I loved his independent. Again, I'm an independent, so he was very, it was attractive to me, this whole movement. And I just thought to myself, boy, there's really no difference between me and every Republican who voted for Donald Trump yesterday. The one difference I will say is they believe he's an agent of change, and I just still didn't, and I still don't. Because I don't think he made those changes the first time around, and I don't think he's going to make those changes this time around. I'm pulling for him. I just don't believe it, and other people, whether they do or didn't, they pulled the lever in that direction anyway. And I don't begrudge them for it. And I don't feel like they're racist. Was racist rhetoric used? Yes. Did I draw comparisons to Trump's campaign style and rhetoric and the Nazis? Yeah, because you know what? There was. But I don't scream. I don't want to be screaming at Republicans. Again, the whole time I was doubting people and the Republicans in this election, I consistently and constantly asked, what are you thinking here? How are you feeling about this? Why are you ignoring all these things?
Yeah.
And I got my answer now. Everything I read and looked at today and everything I presented at the beginning was my answer. It was not that they don't love women, because the women who didn't vote for the woman or side with the women's rights, again, they just felt like, yeah, that's important or not important, but I think this is more important. And that issue was the economy, border security, and crime.
Yep.
So.
Yep. Well, we shall
Who'd you
see.
vote for?
You want me to say it? I'll say it if you say it.
Well, I'm definitely not going to say it. I have a sneaking suspicion you voted for Kamala because I know how much that healthcare stuff means to you. I could be wrong, though. You could have voted for Trump.
Yeah, but she didn't have any policy on it. If she wants to say free healthcare for everyone, okay, great. But what's the real thing? Because
no, I don't think she was.
Tried that.
Yeah, I don't think she was saying that. I think she was saying she was going to protect the women's right to choose and try and pass into law the protections that were under Roe v. Wade. That was her policy. That was her policy stance on that.
Important to me, yes. Not most important to me.
Okay, all right.
And I think a lot of women felt that way. And I think that there's a lot of women out there and men who are very religious. And so they won't have anything to, especially older people. Like, I'm like your parents' age. Are they pro-choice or not? Or you don't know?
No, I would say. Well, I would say they're very pro. No, I would say they're pro-choice.
Because I feel like a lot of older, like that generation, is not pro-choice.
It's weird because my mother's extraordinarily religious, but she is also, Sicilian. So she's in that don't fucking tell me what to do camp.
Okay, yeah.
So yeah, I don't know if I've ever really talked to her about that. But you know what I found? It's interesting that you said that about older women getting the abortions when you worked at that place.
Yep.
Because I felt like it's the people who have teenage daughters that were most inclined to vote for that issue. Is that a weird thing to say? Because that's how I feel about it. Like, my daughter right now is 7. I don't have to worry about that for a while. Yeah, I did think of my niece, obviously. She's in college, so I do worry about her, when it comes to those things. But I felt like, boy, the parent of a 16-year-old or 17-year-old or 18-year-old girl probably feels way different about this issue than any other parent.
Like, you feel like they're pro-choice?
Yeah. Because I feel like, things happen, and, God forbid something would have happened to your daughter or your niece or whatever. They were attacked or, whatever the case is, or, there was just a whoopsie daisy, whatever it is, some people feel like you don't want to, if you're not ready to bring that child into the world, you shouldn't.
Right.
I'm a religious person. I've never had an abortion. I've never paid for one, despite the rumors going around the internet. But
you're not religious. That's your first lie. Are you a politician?
No, I'm not religious. No, I'm not religious. But I don't love the idea of an abortion. But I also really don't love the idea of not having the option.
Well, I think that's the case.
For most people, yeah.
Because I don't know if it was you that I was speaking with this. Because yes, if people are saying a case of incest or rape, then yes, they agree with an abortion if they're pro-life. But who's to decide if it really was or not?
Exactly. Yeah, we were talking about that. You can't prove it.
So that's when it gets a little, the lines become blurred, like it's hard. And in the case of, if you're 18, 20, 24, 28 weeks pregnant and you find out that your baby has this condition or whatever, that yeah, they might die in utero, or they might, you know, um, they might be born but then die within minutes. What do you do? And that's a big decision to make.
I don't know if I would see that all the way through.
Right.
Seems like a long time to torture oneself for.
Right. So that's a big decision to make.
Huge.
I know there are people who are like, I don't want to be the one, I don't want to be quote unquote God and make that decision. And then there's other people who say, I don't want to prolong this if the baby's not going to have a chance. So let's get it done now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or the baby's going to be in pain, or
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So that's I have to say that is a very heartbreaking decision.
Well, it's an issue that is going to be shelved for at least the next 4 years, because I don't think he plans on doing anything about it. And I think he's going to leave it with the states, because that's the problem, too, with his campaign. He can't turn around and change it now.
I know. The thing is, it's like, but it's annoying that it's even an issue. Who decided, hey, let's make it up to us if we should decide if abortion should be legal or not.
Religious people.
Yeah, I know. So that's the whole thing.
It's the religious nut jobs that do it, which annoys me that we're now under their control a little. Fly and Y asked if I'm Catholic. Yes, I was raised Catholic. So was Janine.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe not well. I wouldn't call us good Catholics. I also wouldn't put myself in the category with Janine in this area either. But yes, both raised Catholic.
What does that mean?
You're an awful person, whereas I am still walking with Jesus, even though I don't really believe in his organization all that much. Honestly, I feel like you're definitely Roman the way you crucify me for praising your husband's humor. I'm persecuted in that particular instance.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's just, I don't know. It's a very complicated issue.
Yeah, Rhonda says, and you guys shouldn't be deciding. Well, here's the thing. Here's kind of the hilarious thing about all of this. The people that are writing these laws have no fucking clue. Like, the people go, oh, a lot of the things, it's like, oh, you can get an abortion within 3 weeks or 4 weeks. And everybody knows sometimes it's 6 weeks before you fucking realize.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's like these laws were written by men, clearly, that have no fucking clue what they're doing. Well, did you hear what happened in Florida? In Florida, they were like, hey, do you want to have abortions and whatever? And so 57% of the state voted for yes. And come to find out that the provision of that particular referendum required 60%.
Oh.
So that's some sneaky ass shit when you think about how that state splits. And it's like that's no mistake. Somebody out there goes, let's put the thing at 60%. And this way it'll look like we're doing something, even though we're really not.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Yep. So.
Yep. I know.
Well, listen, I hope we all learned something on this episode. Did you find this insightful as to how Donald Trump won the election? Or were you sitting there going, I've been saying this for the longest time, asshole. Why did you listen to me?
I was thinking, America, fuck yeah, the whole time. No, it was insightful. Because like I said, I don't know about politics. I don't know.
Yeah.
And it's a lot of bullshit in your ear from both sides. So what to believe, what not to believe, but how he won, that's it. Like you said what you said was correct. Enough talking down to these people. Guess what? Now they're gonna talk back. Talk shit, get hit.
It,
Hashtag.
it doesn't work, and the Democrats really need to figure out a different tactic.
Right.
I think it's time for Nancy Pelosi to step aside. I mean, they're really leaderless when you think about it. Pelosi's old as shit. Schumer's really old. Kamala's got no power. Biden's on his way out. All the quote unquote leaders of that party are kind of
Yeah.
lost, So somebody's going to have to take the reins over there. And God, I just hope it's somebody who's not on the extreme side because, there's, because again, when you go back to that fucking Democrat website, and you see all those things there, and it's like, yeah, you do have to look out for all of those people. That's important. But at the same time, you can't push aside this demographic of people that also
Yeah.
exist in the world, that also need your help.
Exactly. Well, another thing is too, like, okay, they knew after that debate with Biden that it was over for him, and they said, you know what? Let's get a woman in there, and we're definitely gonna win. And they didn't. They didn't. I think that they put her in there just because they thought that she would win because she's a woman, and
Yeah.
they would get more more women to vote.
I don't think it hurt. Yeah, I think Roe v. Wade and the fact that she was a woman played a huge part in it. I would agree with that. Yeah. At the same time, too, it was just convenient, right? Because they didn't have to move the money around. It was already, she was on the
Right.
campaign. There was a bunch of that stuff.
Also, there was no one else.
There was nobody else. Yeah. And she could have been the sacrificial lamb. Hey, if they lose, it's just Kamala. It's not like they're putting up Gavin Newsom or Buttigieg or one of their other studs in the party. They probably felt like, let's see what, or
Right.
maybe they just thought she really was the best chance and they were just terribly mistaken. I don't
think
know.
that they really thought she was the best chance.
Well, here's what I find interesting, and I don't know if people really put this together because it took me a while, but President Trump is responsible for stopping 2 women from becoming the first female president of the United States of America.
The View ladies must fucking hate that.
Yeah. That was a big Republican thing. Every Republican I know was like, what time is The View? What channel is The View on? They were all doing. But the first time I saw it, I was like, oh, that's funny. It's cute. And then when I saw it 17 more times, I was like, okay, now we're just copying and pasting what Don Jr. said, and it's getting a little irritating.
Yeah, I know.
But I will be honest with you. I did tune in to see what they had to say about it, and they were, dicks like they always are. I mean, they're kind of dicks.
Right.
I don't find that show particularly interesting. I love Whoopi and I love Joy Behar. I think they're hilarious. I don't get all the other people, and it's.
I can't stand Joy Behar. Can't fucking, and the other one, Anna Navarro. Oh my god.
Yeah.
I can't stand her. Oof.
And they're the people. They are one of the big players in the. Well, you must be a racist then, or
yes, they are.
If you're not down with that right away. I mean, how many times have we spoken on this show? And I've been outspoken about being for transgender people and providing that safe space for them and being there for them. And then the second I go, I'm not sure how young we should extend that courtesy to, because kids go through weird phases and you never know if they're going to come back out of it and feel differently about it. And maybe there's a different way to nurture them through that time until they get to an age that we can all figure. Like, I don't have the answers, but I'm like, and then, everybody, and Frank's guilty of this too, will jump all over me and be like, well, what are you, fucking Frank doesn't say it, or you bigot, but he opposes it. And then I go into the comments and they're like, I didn't choose you to be a anti-transgender person. And I'm like, I'm not fucking,
No,
can
it's
we
common sense. Sorry,
Yeah.
but it's common sense.
Can we have I'm not even saying, hey, no things for kids, because you're probably going to have that kid who figures it out at 6, and when he's 26 or she's 26, it's going to still feel the same way. That's going to happen too.
Yeah.
It's just like let's pump the brakes on doing this, because as we've seen from people, there are people who do wind up regretting it. You got to care for those people as much as you got to care for the people that need to find their way through that transgender journey.
Right.
And you get called a bigot right away. So I also hope that this is a little bit of a pullback on some of that political correctness. Again, political correctness is a bizarre thing because you and I talk about shit, and Frank, and like I said, there's love there. There's caring there. We're okay. And you want to say to everybody, like, hey, we can, lay back. And then some racist guy says some really shitty stuff. And you're like, oh shit. Okay, hold on. I didn't mean for you to come through, with some of that stuff. So I understand why some of it is there. Like I saw a clip today of a guy, they were having a serious conversation. It was an interview. It wasn't a podcast, but they were at a restaurant having an interview. And this guy was like, I'm voting for Trump because I don't want white people to become a minority. And the guy said it so innocently, like, I just don't want white people to become a minority. And I'm like, that would be the definition of racism to me. This whole like, my people and we're going to get replaced. I never felt like, oh, I got to protect the other white guys. I have never felt like that once in my life. I don't give a shit.
You were part of White Guys for Harris. But see, that to me is ridiculous because you're singling out a specific group. To me, that's racist. To me, that's just so, like, who thought of that? And who said that's going to be okay?
Right.
Because she's black, and you could say white guys. No.
But this guy was just serious as pie. Just like, I'm afraid. And I'm like, I don't know. I always feel like those other white people don't give a shit about you. Why are you sitting there like, oh, we're all getting through this together? Like, there's no team white people meeting that it's like, all right, everybody, we got to make sure we keep our fucking, our insurance, we got to, keep this. And like, what are you talking about? I don't give a shit. Who fucking cares?
I know. By the way, you putting your AC on tonight?
It is disgustingly hot, isn't it? I got the windows open.
So fucking, it's AC. Last night, let me tell you, I did not have a good night sleep. I did not. First of all, I fell asleep on the couch at 11:30ish. Husband, roommate, whatever you want to fucking call him, did not wake me up to go back.
Comedic genius is what I want to call him.
Did not wake me to go into bed. So I'm like, ugh. I get up and I was sweating like, I was like, oh, what the fuck? So I go on my bed, check on my phone. I'm about to fall asleep. And my brother texts the group chat saying, he won Pennsylvania. That's all, folks. And I was like, oh, he fucking won. Because that's what Anthony said. And he's a smart liberal. So I actually woke up my husband. I'm like, hello. And he's like, what? And I'm like, Trump won. And he's like, I'm like, yeah, go back to sleep. Wake up. And then I, like, of course, couldn't fall asleep. So I'm looking on my phone. CNN is not saying anything. I'm like, okay, whatever. Woke up about 4 o'clock. I had to put the AC on because, again, I was sweating my ass off. And I'm like, what the fuck? And then he had to actually go into work early. So he woke up at 6. That's too early for me. Went back to sleep. It was just not a good night of sleeping.
You need to move to where Bird is. She had 8 inches of snow this morning.
You know what? Like I always say, if it's less than 6 inches, it ain't worth it. So 8 inches is good.
It's 55 where Linda I want a weather report from everybody in the live chat right now. Where are you and what's the temperature? Because it is disgustingly, like, just before the show, I was like, I got to open a window because it's like disgustingly hot in the house. And it's like warm and humid out. This fucking this October has been it's November now, but it's been a fucking nightmare the last 4 weeks. A nightmare.
We're warmer than LA.
Holy shit. 64 in LA. You got 66 in New York. 64 where Christina is in New York. Oops, there you go. Today was 77.
Yep,
It was
so
fucking hot.
Here too, it was 77.
Flying Y says
Anyway.
Indian summer. Flying Y, please. Indigenous people summer. Let's, Native, Indigenous people, American. We hate Columbus summer. Please.
Of course, Ms. Justice has got to give us the Canadian.
I thought this was her password to the fucking, BC 9 degrees C. What does that mean?
It means it's time for me to go.
All right.
Okay.
All right, Jay Sams.
Thank you, everyone. And one more time, America. Fuck yeah.
There she goes. Jay Sams, everybody. Clearly very happy at the election results.
Sabatino 2028.
There you go. Just going to make it happen. I'm going to get the camp. Listen, all I know is I'm going to get a lawn sign out front and I'm going to put a light on it so people can see it at night. That's all I know. It's going to be great. It's going to be fucking great. Oh, is BC British Columbia? That would be what that is, right? What an asshole. What an idiot. How did I not see that coming? I'm like, what is that? A new Canadian way of measuring temperature? What a dick. What a dick. How did I not see British Columbia? I'm on an hour and a half sleep. Let's chalk it up to that. Secret Truth 78 in Texas. Dear Lord. Dear Lord. There's nothing worse than being warm at night. Ugh, it's disgusting. All right, let's hope that all our Democratic friends learn some patience. Let's not jump to conclusions. Maybe we take it easy on all the politically incorrect rhetoric and throw a little bit more love around today. I don't know. Who knows? I do know this. Hopefully less Donald Trump talk on the podcast.
Show me potato salad.
I don't know about you, but that's what I'm looking forward to.
Maybe we should go now.
Go ahead.